Kevin. Let's get to the Xbox here. So they officially announced it at the Game Awards.
The
It's called
Xbox radiation chimney.
Yeah, you can. I want to see people like fry grill steaks on it or something.
Sure.
So it's called the Xbox Series X. At least that's how they were announcing it. There's been news today that it may not be called that. And so it's a. I think they dropped the ball with how they announced this thing in the first place, as far as like the wording, the phrasing goes.
Okay.
But
yeah, they kept calling it Xbox X on stage, which sounds like Xbox sex.
Yeah, how's that gonna get shortened? That's a problematic name already. But as far as like the name goes, the power behind it. What do you think about the overall look? Because that was kind of the biggest shock I think for a lot of us was going with this tower design.
Dull it is.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, it's fine.
I'm really on board with this design.
I'm more worried about like with these vertical things. Now that looks pretty sturdy. Like if I ever tip my like Xbox upwards or like my PS3 or my Wii, I think the Wii had a nicer base, but like the concern is always a cat.
Yeah, it's almost
running
like
up and boom.
Yeah, and they're so tall, those ones, and narrow. I feel like any little tick at the right point will just make the whole thing topple over. And they always sell stands for like the PS4, the 360, but those stands were always like way too expensive and just like not worth it. This one does seem cube shaped enough that I think it can handle, pushing on it. And apparently it can be placed on its side. There's been more information released about it. You can place it on its side. There's for sure a vent and or fan at the top, but there's possibly some on the back.
That's where the soda goes. Pour the soda.
Gotcha. Yeah,
I think there was a streamer where that happened where was it the cat peed in the top or the cat like knocked a drink over into the top?
Do you remember that we covered
PC? I think that's what I was talking about.
Okay, so the cat threw up on the PC.
Well, that
remember
was
that?
it. That was it.
And you could like hear it on the stream. Remember we played it. It was like audibly fucking gross. Yeah. That's what happened. But
and I have those big holes on the top of mine, so it's like
no, cats are gonna be dumping in this thing for sure. Yeah, so watch out for that. But you're kind of maybe on the fence sort of about this design. Do you like that they went with a different one out of the gate, or is this how does this affect you?
I mean, it doesn't really. I mean, it doesn't affect me. I think I give you my opinion, but my kind of opinion is, gives not Chrome, but whatever the Stadia. It gives Stadia a little bit more credence when they put out that statement in the trailers where like it takes up almost no space. Like, and again, you've heard this, but for the podcast, like the Xbox One X doesn't hardly take up any space. The PlayStation 5 Pro 9000 doesn't hardly take up any space. That takes up space.
This one does, yeah. So they said that's cool. We're gonna create like two Xboxes glued together. Although, see, I'm of two minds. Where right, like I could see this taking up more space, possibly because it's so vertical. But I think it's the same width of like a GameCube. It's possibly the same kind of like rough area. It's just the fact that it takes up so much space going up is what's so shocking at first.
Maybe if that controller is to scale, then yeah, maybe.
But also maybe not. So here's the deal with the controllers. If this is a to scale controller, picture the Xbox One X standing up. It seems like it's the same kind of thing. It's an Xbox One X. It's just they have the motherboard and just like did an angle thing with it.
It's weird that they're gonna have to have a long motherboard. I mean, it could be a scale because look at the size of that disk drive.
Right, that makes sense. And then even the little button that reminds you just like the Xbox One X button.
Yeah.
I wonder once people get this in their hands, as far as like whatever news outlets, and they can start doing the size comparisons. IGN started doing one, but just off the scans alone, just off the pictures alone, and they made their own like model of it basically, and so they're kind of comparing it. With that model, it looked a lot like the height of an Xbox One X, just a bit thicker, and it didn't look too crazy when it actually came down to it. How
would one compare it to a bowl of oatmeal?
I don't know. It's definitely as thick as a bowl of oatmeal for sure. One thing I've heard of is that there's one. This is from GameSpot. They were doing interviews where they were claiming there's one fan in the middle that is sucking the air in and out. But I wonder if that's true, or if there's fans in the back, because we're not seeing the back. We assume it's the same all around. Then you just have the ports in the back. But I wonder also with the picture that they show off, the high-res picture, it's somewhat off the ground, indicating there's little nubs. Like maybe that's where they pull the air down through it and then out. Because otherwise you can't just have one fan just blowing out. You have to have an intake and then a port going out, right, in theory?
I'm still nervous about like having, like if you put a fan on the bottom, like you're going to get so much cat hair in that thing.
Yeah, cat hair is going to be tough unless there's like a filter you pull out, which is like a whole thing. But apparently there's a Corsair PC gaming box thingamabob that is very similar to this one as far as
Sure.
like the shape and overall design. No, I dig it. I like that it's such a drastic change in how the consoles have looked lately. This is just mostly it's like an artistic statement from Microsoft saying like, hey, we're going a different route. Whatever PlayStation 5 does is probably going to be the same vein of what they've always done. This is something way different. This looks like this like old school Chernobyl, tower coming out of the sky that has these vents, and then there's a green LED in there too. Like it looks pretty different.
I think so I think it's going to fit weird into a console or like an entertainment center because typically they're not shaped. They're shaped for shorter things. But here's the thing as far as the look goes. Who fucking cares? Like you don't like as dumb as the original PlayStation 3 looked. You're just playing games on it. You don't
With
care
the
how
rounded and the Spider-Man
Yeah,
font,
it was huge. Like you didn't care how that thing looked. You were playing Uncharted and going, "Wow!" That was way too loud.
I see. I'm of two minds again with that. I hear you where it really doesn't matter. Kind of, it's going to be shoved into your entertainment console, so you're not going to see it every day.
Right.
But this one does seem like something that's weird enough, artistic enough, where you do kind of want it front and center as you walk in, especially if it lights up. Like it's kind of a cool Alienware type of design to it. Wow. But also, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because it's about what the games are, what the performance is.
Yeah.
But what this says to me is that this is ready for performance. This is like a hardcore PC kind of setup. I feel like that's what they're trying to have more visual stuff with this and what it might be.
Yeah.
But
curious how much it weighs.
Yeah. Yep. Good point with that. It could be pretty beefy. The controller they're pairing it with looks like a modified Pro controller. There's a share button which you caught. I didn't see that initially, and that little weird cross button is very similar to that Xbox Pro controller that's like $120, where it's like customizable. You can pop everything out of it.
Oh right.
But otherwise, it looks like a very traditional Xbox controller. As far as like the visuals, I'm on board. It's just different. But there's more to pick apart on it. So there's some information on the actual performance side of it. So all the gigaflops and teraflops. The gigaflops and teraflops. So that information almost doesn't make any sense. Doesn't mean anything. Yeah. But in some of the interviews, they mention how it's at least twice as powerful as the Xbox One X. I keep seeing as far as just to like quantify what that means as far as what we would see with the visuals go. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of just speculation until we get concrete facts from Xbox.
Right.
But how do you feel about the name? So it's the Xbox Series X is what they're announcing it and revealing it at.
Well, I think that was the series because they announced that there's going to be more than one console. So this is the brand.
Yeah.
Of the series.
Which I didn't catch that. I thought it was Xbox Series X.
Well, that was leaked. That was leaked that there was going to be multiple consoles. So we this is probably the premium one. It's got the disc drive.
Yeah.
Then they'll have, because there was Anaconda and the other one was like...
Oh, Lockhart is one of them?
Yeah, Lockhart. I think this is Anaconda.
Well, see, what I mean is that when they announced this, I thought the whole name of this console was Xbox Series X, which seems like a super long, weird, complicated name.
Right.
Just so when kids go to buy this thing, how are they going to differentiate this from like the Xbox One X or the Xbox S? But there's been some more information on as far as the actual name goes. Apparently, this is the next line of Xboxes are just called Xbox. And I think just like you said, this one is called the Series X. The next one, whatever they call it, might be the Series X or might be just Xbox something. So it's just like this is the start of these different lines of consoles that are just called Xbox something. And not like Xbox One or 2 or that kind of thing. But I found this interesting. So this is before they announced the Xbox One X. They had an interview with Stevivor, which is a New Zealand outlet. They talked to Xbox chief Phil Spencer. So he claimed that as far as like the naming conventions for the Xbox goes, he says our naming convention has been around what we think the capabilities are. Spencer added to his response. A lot of people thought that means whatever it's called indicates what it does. But I don't know how you derive the name Series X to mean anything about what it does.
Sounds cool in a very year 2000-y way.
Right. Here's the next thing I think about too is how much would this thing cost if you were to theorize about this?
500, 600.
I feel like that's fair, right? So IGN did a breakdown of some of the components as far as what we know now, like what these components cost now in the PC. Yeah. And the fact that there's like an SSD in it. There is some of the advancements in like in RAM and that kind of thing, and CPU power wise. Let's say they were giving estimates of like $600.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Apparently, with these newer ones, with this line of Xbox consoles, say like Halo, the new Halo coming out, it's going to work on Xbox One X, the Series. I guess possibly the One S, and they're gonna branch this to where it's like it's usable on all these different consoles. It just depends on which one you buy.
Wait, it's going to be playable on the One X?
Yeah, the One X, the Series X, the One S. So it's these.
So it's not even a next gen game.
It is a next gen game if you play it on like the latest hardware, I guess. So it's gonna look crappy on the One S, but you can still play it on there. And they're gonna broaden their games to be like on the Xbox family of games.
I disagree with that.
Gotcha. It's been in the. I don't have the actual thing for you, but I will find.
Like
that.
you can't have that statement earlier of like the first Halo built for the next gen. And it's like, but also not.
I think they're trying to broaden their pool because they kind of are behind in this generation, where they need to give people more of a reason to jump in no matter what they have, whatever they buy. But that's what they've been saying. I'll find the actual quote at some point. But
they can't just keep fracturing this marketplace this far. It's getting.
Are they fracturing it, or are they broadening it so more people can jump in?
Yeah, but I don't know. I disagree. I think.
Gotcha.
I think it's bad business. You got to make people jump on the new hotness.
You do, but what if the new hotness is $600? Because that's what kind of was made a PS3 dead in the water. It was $600 when it came out.
Well, to quote somebody who I can't remember, "Fuck you, pay me." Like,
yeah. Although when they're behind, I feel like maybe Sony could do that, but then it just goes back to the PS3 debacle, and that's how they lost that generation. So like locking everyone to this super high end console that costs so much money, like over that $600 mark, I think is not the way to go. But if you can have the same game available on a console that's $300 or $400, it gives it gives your customers an option to like jump in. And if they're just trying to sell the software too, then at least they got the sales from that software.
right.
But yeah, we have it confirmed. The Xbox Series X or Xbox New, whatever the fuck it's called.
Xbox X.
Xbox X is confirmed.
Triple X Xbox X.
I find the only issue I have lately is like with the naming thing that they've decided to go, the route they've decided to go with. I just think it makes it harder for average consumers to know what the fuck they're buying.
Yeah, grandma can't figure that shit out.
Right.
Grandma has no idea what she's buying. You're gonna come walking home with a Xbox.
Yeah, right. Or the original one.
Yeah, exactly. The original Xbox.
Or the VCR Xbox One. You remember that first one that came out? It was just this huge fucking like thing. Like remember the OG Xbox One? Remember that one?
Oh, Xbox One. I thought you were talking about Xbox.
Gotcha.
No, I don't remember what the original.
Yeah, that one's just like it looked like a big VCR.
Did they not look like that currently? Is that not what yours look like?
No, that's the one I have is the Xbox X, One X. Sorry, and so the OG, the original ones were just they were huge.
Yeah, is that not what it looks like?
No, it's like it's very similar to the newer one, but it's like half of it and longer this way. But yeah, it's more of a monolithic, like it's more of a clean black. And this one had the weird like vents and lines, and half of it's a shiny black, and yeah. But that was the original one when it came out.
It's more of a tube then, the Xbox tube.
Yeah, you know what? That reminds me of. Do you remember Apple came out with one of their higher end Macs that was like a round trash.
The new one, yeah, the black.
Not the
black
one on the
cheese
wheels,
grater.
but like no, not that one. Remember there was that round one that was like an inner tube that was just like cylindrical. Do you remember that? I'll find the. It was like. Yeah, it was like.
I believe you, but I have.
Apple Mac. I'm gonna call it garbage can. Here we go. Yeah, the Mac Pro. This was maybe 4 years ago now. It's a bit.
That does look vaguely familiar. That just looks like Mega Man's blaster to me. Put that. Boop.
But I know they went with this weird cylindrical design because apparently it helped with like heat, displacement, if that's the right term, or venting. But the way they arranged the components were super weird because they were like sideways.
Yeah,
but,
I'd say so.
Yeah, and it was super expensive when it came out too. Maybe I doubt it's any cheaper, but that's how Mac stuff goes. But yeah, it's such a weird. It's like Darth Vader's. I don't know.
How much does it say it is on this site? Whatever this is.
This is Apple Mac Pro. It's a 1 terabyte version, 64 gigs memory for $3,500.
That can't be real. Is that? I think
it's Intel.
Is that for that or is that for something else?
That's for this.
That thing is.
Seems
like I knew that Macs were more expensive, but that's stupid.
Maybe the RAM is crazy. It's D700 RAM, 6 gigabytes of RAM doesn't sound like that much. I think this laptop has 6 gigs of RAM.
I bet it does.
It's a 3.5 gigahertz processor, 64 gigabytes memory, solid state drive. Oh wait, so the RAM is 64 gigabytes. Yeah, and the 1 terabyte is solid state drive.
DDR3, yeah.
Okay. It doesn't seem, although this doesn't surprise me because the new one that's in the news lately is like 3,500 when you like max out all the settings, like the one on the wheels, the cheese grater one. That one's like crazy expensive. So that doesn't surprise me at all. This old one, you're buying the name with Apple for sure.
Yeah. I don't. I mean,